This is a very strange story. The story of a man who entered the world of live streaming and social media, searching for a place to belong. He was looking for attention, for recognition, only to find himself trapped in a shocking and completely unexpected experience. It is a story full of surprises, a story that pulls you deep into the world of fame, psychological pressure, and the hidden conflicts that happen behind the scenes, far away from what people see on their screens. This man started with a simple goal. He wanted to be seen. He wanted to feel appreciated, but he quickly learned that the road to fame is not easy, and it is never safe. The digital world can look tempting, almost magical, but beneath the surface, it is filled with challenges, hidden dangers, and uncomfortable truths. What you see online is rarely the full story. So let us begin. Let us dive into the details. Let us discover how everything started and follow the real journey of a man who tried to find his place in the online world, only to realize that the biggest shock was waiting at the very end. Raphael Graven was a French influencer, presenter, and photographer, better known online as Jean Pormanov. He was born in northeastern France and was 41 years old. Before entering the world of social media, around 5 years earlier, Jean served in the military at an Air Force base. Some information online suggests that he was bullied during his service, either because of his slim body or because his personality seemed different. Others say the opposite, describing him as kind, always smiling, and willing to help everyone around him. After leaving the military, Jean worked very simple jobs. He worked as a cleaner, as a postal worker, and at times he was unemployed. His life was ordinary and repetitive. Nothing stood out. Nothing exciting ever happened. Jean had no friends. He had never been in a relationship. He lived with his mother, something that, in Western society, is often viewed as unacceptable. It is seen as strange, especially when someone has never moved out or formed relationships. Jean lived this way for a long time. Every day followed the same routine again and again. Eventually, boredom took over. He felt stuck, like he was not moving forward, like he was not becoming anything. After years of a difficult and harsh life, he started thinking about social media. He was not chasing luxury or power, he just wanted a place, some recognition, even a small sense of importance. In the year 2018, he decided to try live streaming. That decision marked the true beginning of his story. Jean created an account on a streaming platform using the name Jean Pormanov. Most of the time, he played popular video games like Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto. While playing, he often lost his temper, yelling and swearing. In many clips, Jean looked angry. But in reality, he was generally happy. For the first time in his life, he had people to talk to, people in the chat, people who responded to him. Even if there were only 4, 5, or 6 viewers, that was enough. For someone as lonely as Jean, it meant everything. What mattered was that someone was there. Over time, his clips started spreading. People shared them, especially the moments where he lost his temper or reacted emotionally. It did not take long before a well-known French streamer, known as Kyrie, noticed him. Kyrie invited Jean to join him in live streams. Because of Jean's explosive personality, Kyrie's chat became fascinated with him. They found him funny, not because he was trying to be, but because his reactions were real and unfiltered. Slowly, Jean began gaining more followers. He built an audience that enjoyed his presence and his honesty. Viewers felt that he was different from other creators who pretended, acted superior, or forced entertainment. Jean was simply himself. And that authenticity is what people loved most. As his audience grew, people started recognizing him at events. They greeted him. They asked for photos. This was something Jean had never imagined. He never thought anyone would want a picture with him. His life had changed completely. Before streaming, he was isolated. Afterward, he stepped into a world of fame, becoming someone people recognized. But not all attention was kind. Many viewers deliberately tried to provoke him. They wanted to see him angry. They wanted him to explode. They sent mocking donations. They teased him in the chat. They made jokes at his expense. They bullied him openly. They called him old. They mocked his stutter. They told him he was bad at games. They called him a failure. Jean understood his role. No one likes being mocked, but he was making money. As donations increased, his streams became more successful. He leaned further into the role of the angry streamer. He created a YouTube channel where anger became the main content. The views were high. Kyrie, the streamer who helped him rise, shared profits from their joint streams because they generated significant revenue. No one truly knew what was happening inside Jean's mind, but the reality was clear. A man who once relied on government support was now earning around $10,000 a month. He was famous online. He had people talking to him, both in chat and in real life. At first, this seemed positive. But suddenly, everything changed. And the reason for that change was dangerous, and it all began with Kyrie. Kyrie was the reason, the dangerous secret. Kyrie, also known to some as Carreri, was involved in a relationship with a minor. The girl was under the legal age. This was illegal, extremely dangerous, and morally wrong. When Jean found out, he was disgusted. He was shocked. He could not accept it. Jean decided to cut all ties with Kyrie completely. His values and principles did not allow him to tolerate something like this. For him, this crossed a line that could never be undone. That decision became a turning point in his life. Jean's streaming career was suddenly on the edge of collapse. He lost the main support he depended on. After everything that happened, Jean desperately needed a new streaming partner, anyone willing to go live with him. And that was the problem. Most well-known streamers refused to collaborate with him. Jean's reputation had become damaged, partly because of his behavior and partly because of his past connection to Kyrie. People avoided him. They kept their distance. No one wanted to appear with him on stream. It felt like Jean's story was ending right there, as if everything was over. Then suddenly, two people entered his life and changed everything. Their names were Owen and Safin Hamadi. Owen and Safin already knew Jean, and Jean knew them because they had appeared together in Kyrie's streams before. So starting streams together felt natural. The deal was simple. At the time, Jean had around 600,000 followers. Owen and Safin had around 100,000. By streaming with Jean, they would gain exposure and easy content. Jean, on the other hand, would have partners to stream with, keeping his career alive. There was also the hope that they might become real friends. They started creating content together, playing games, talking, joking, provoking Jean to trigger his anger for reaction clips. At the same time, Owen offered to help manage Jean's social media accounts and upload clips. As a result, Jean's views jumped dramatically, from a few hundred views per video to around 8,000 or more. This happened in just a few days. After 3 months, Owen suggested taking things further. He proposed renting a private house, a place dedicated entirely to live streaming. They would all live together and stream around the clock. And they actually did it. They moved into the house, and at first everything seemed normal. They played games. They teased Jean lightly to get funny reactions like yelling or anger. But over time, Owen and Safin started pushing things further. And then even further. With every new stream, their behavior became harsher, more aggressive, more disturbing. At first it seemed harmless, just teasing. Simple games. Then it turned violent. They began hitting Jean with plastic swimming sticks, the kind used to teach swimming. It was obvious that Jean did not like this. The sticks were not extremely painful, but they were the beginning of something much worse. Some of the clips from these streams cannot even be shown on platforms like YouTube. What was happening was real, recorded physical abuse. In one stream, Owen and Safin wore boxing gloves and punched Jean with full force while he screamed. They surrounded him, hitting him repeatedly. Then they grabbed a paintball gun and shot him with it. Paintball shots are painful even with protective gear. John had none. He screamed in pain. They laughed, they danced, they joked, they treated it like entertainment. And it did not stop there. In one incident, Owen streamed while driving at high speed, intentionally hitting road bumps over and over again. Why? Because Jean was locked inside the trunk of the car. He was trapped, unable to escape, thrown around as the car hit bump after bump. Imagine opening the trunk after someone has endured 100 bumps, confused, in pain, not even knowing where they are. It was cruel, it was reckless, and completely unacceptable. But it got worse. They reached a point where they began choking him. They called it the thyroid challenge, a challenge they invented themselves. The idea was to press on Jean's neck, directly on the thyroid area, which is extremely sensitive. What made this especially dangerous was that Jean already had a thyroid condition. They knew this. They were not just hurting him physically, they were putting his life at risk. This was not harmless pain. Pressure like this can reduce blood flow to the brain, restrict breathing, and can be fatal. Jean was taking medication for his condition. Whether his thyroid was overactive or underactive, both situations were dangerous. One could cause rapid heart rate and high blood pressure. The other could cause slow heart rate and serious heart rhythm problems. Either way, the risk was real. In both cases, the risk was real. And it was deadly. And this did not last for a short time. 1 month passed, then 2, then 3. But it did not stop. This was not something that lasted a few months. It continued for 3 full years. 3 years. Let that sink in. 3 years of constant violence. 3 years of degrading challenges. 3 years of humiliation. And with every stream, with every new phase, the situation kept getting worse. This is how many content creators get trapped. Once they enter a certain type of content, they feel forced to keep pushing it further. They become willing to do worse and worse things, just to avoid losing views. And that is exactly what happened here. At this point, several questions naturally come up. Why didn't Jean leave? Why didn't he walk away from these people? The second question is just as important. How did the Kick platform allow this to happen? At the beginning, around 10,000 people were watching the streams at the same time. Later, that number grew to around 200,000 live viewers. That is massive. They were among the biggest streamers in France at that time. There is no way the platform did not know what was happening. There is no way it was unaware of the content being broadcast. Nothing was hidden. The third question is even darker. Why were Owen and Safin doing this at all? The answer is uncomfortable but simple. As long as there are people who enjoy shocking and harmful content, there will always be people willing to create it. Some do it for fame, some do it for money. Often, it is both. Many people are drawn to shocking content because it triggers strong emotions. Fear, curiosity, adrenaline. Over time, people become desensitized. Violence starts to feel normal. What was once disturbing turns into entertainment. Some viewers laugh because they feel superior to the person being humiliated. Others donate money while watching, and when everyone else is laughing, responsibility feels shared. No one feels guilty alone. Even if someone feels uncomfortable deep down, they convince themselves it is fine. After all, everyone else is laughing too. And when suffering is seen through a screen, when the person being hurt appears to accept it, it becomes easy to disconnect. You stop imagining their pain. You stop seeing them as a real human being. More than 10,000 people watched Jean being humiliated and tortured live. For years, almost no one intervened. No one spoke up. Silence. People treated it like a comedy show, not a live broadcast of a human being being abused. When journalists finally began investigating, including a major report by Mediapart, the findings were clear. They exposed the psychological and physical abuse Jean suffered during live streams. They highlighted the danger, especially since much of the audience consisted of teenagers and children. Young viewers were watching and learning that violence was normal, that it was entertaining, that it was funny. The reports also pointed out that there were no real laws stopping what was happening, and they showed how platforms like Kick looked the other way as long as money kept coming in. This led to one major question. Money? Was the income really that big? Were these streams generating terrifying amounts of profit? According to the investigations, the streamers had a contract with Kick from the beginning. The exact amount was never confirmed. But as viewership exploded, the platform reportedly offered them around 600,000 euros. That number was never officially confirmed, but it made sense. Kick was known for paying extreme amounts. On top of that, they received massive donations from viewers. Simply put, Owen and Safin became incredibly rich. And Jean? To them, Jean was nothing more than a tool, a way to make money. What makes this even worse is that the abuse did not stop with Jean. Even his mother became a target. In one live stream, Owen publicly insulted Jean's mother, using a disgusting word in front of thousands of viewers. So we return to the original question. Why didn't Jean leave? In theory, he could have. But what would happen after that? By that point, he had already earned a large amount of money. Even if we do not know exactly how much he personally received from the 600,000 euros, it was clearly significant. If he left, he would never earn that kind of money again. He would be forced to move back in with his mother, back to relying on government support, back to the life he thought he had escaped. For Jean, leaving felt like failure, like going back to zero after finally reaching something. And there is one more important thing to remember. For most of his life, Jean was completely alone. No friends, no social circle. This fame, this attention, these people around him, it was the first time he felt like he belonged somewhere, even though it was built on suffering. Jean was emotionally weak, or maybe he never fully developed a strong sense of self at all. What made everything even worse was that Kick itself became part of the abuse. The platform began promoting streams where Jean was being humiliated. Clips of his suffering were used to market products and merchandise. After seeing all of this, it is hard not to believe that the platform itself should be held accountable. This was exploitation, and it should have been treated that way. But the most terrifying part of the story came later. In August of the year 2025, Owen announced what he called a challenge, or a marathon, a non-stop live stream lasting 12 full days. Those 12 days were nothing but torture. Live, in real time. And the abuse reached its most extreme level. In one stream, they chained Jean up. They treated him like an animal. They threw eggs at him. They poured glue on him. They surrounded him and beat him. They deprived him of food. They threw their shoes at him. They humiliated him in every possible way. Whenever Jean showed signs of falling asleep, they threw random objects at him to wake him up, just to keep the stream going and increase engagement. And this is critical to understand. Jean suffered from a thyroid condition. Sleep deprivation alone was extremely dangerous for him. Lack of sleep can raise blood pressure, reduce oxygen levels, and greatly increase the risk of heart attacks, especially in someone with chronic health issues. The danger was real and severe. As these extreme challenges continued, people finally began to react. Reports were filed, complaints poured in. French police intervened and arrested those responsible for the streams. But they were quickly released. Why? Because Jean appeared in one of the streams and said that he agreed to the challenges. He said he was not being forced. That statement gave them legal protection. On paper, everything appeared voluntary. There were also rumors involving Jean's mother. Unconfirmed claims suggested that Owen and others offered her large amounts of money to keep Jean participating and to prevent her from filing complaints. These claims were never officially proven. During the marathon, they took Jean's phone. They opened his private messages with his mother. One message said, "I feel trapped with them in this disgusting place. I am exhausted. I want to escape, but they won't let me leave. They are keeping me here." They read the message out loud on stream. They played it back to Jean. They mocked him. They laughed, as if they were saying, "Look at him," crying to his mom. But here is the truth. In every torture stream, it was clear that Jean was not okay. He was not comfortable. He was not truly consenting. He screamed. He begged them to stop. He lost his temper again and again. In one broadcast, he broke down and cried. They mocked him for being old. They mocked him for being weak. They humiliated him even more. The situation reached a disturbing level of irony when Owen, after receiving waves of criticism and hate messages, decided to file a complaint about cyberbullying. After 3 years of abuse and psychological torture, the abuser stepped forward and played the victim. It was infuriating. Then came the final day. On the 18th of August, 2025, the stream was live as usual while everyone slept. The broadcast continued quietly. When Owen woke up and checked the chat, he saw dozens of messages saying the same thing. He's not moving. He hasn't moved for 40 minutes. Is he dead? Instead of acting immediately, they shook him. They threw a bottle at him. Owen walked over and slapped him, trying to get a reaction. There was nothing. No movement, no response. After 298 continuous hours of streaming, the broadcast suddenly cut off. And in that same moment, the worst news arrived. On the 18th of August, 2025, Jean died. On the same day, the stream ended. Years of humiliation, years of torture, years of psychological and physical pressure. He was pushed beyond his limits. And it ended in tragedy. The footage spread across the internet at an unbelievable speed. It appeared on nearly every social media platform worldwide. The story left a deep scar and exposed the extreme dangers of exploiting vulnerable people in live streaming culture. What happens next remains uncertain. Many believe no one will truly be held accountable because everything was framed as consent. But responsibility does not simply disappear. The platform that allowed it, the people who carried out the abuse, the audience that watched in silence, all played a role. Sometimes people do not stay in terrible situations because they want to. Sometimes the victim becomes psychologically convinced that escape is impossible. This story leaves us with a painful lesson. The internet can be entertaining, but when misused, it can become a living nightmare. Jean was a victim of extreme exploitation. His suffering was ignored until he died in his sleep. Health and dignity matter more than fame, more than money, more than entertainment. And this story is a reminder of how easily humanity can be lost behind a screen.